everybody, welcome to Two Over Comics and also Cake Burger. It's been so long since I've done an episode. I don't even know how to do intros anymore. I know.
They thought you were dead. I tried keeping you alive on Friday Night Game Night, and then, letting you know the myth, the legend still exists.
Yeah, I'm still out there. I'm like, like the unicorn, the Sasquatch, the Loch Ness Monster. I don't even remember who this guy is. Who's this guy sitting next to me yet?
He just showed up my driveway today. Let's do a podcast. And I'm like, all right, I'm down. I'm down to talk Spider-Man any day of the week.
I'm constantly in my mind.
And I honestly just wear this all the time and hope the seed comes over, and then
It's like the bat signal, only a gray, somewhat dampened by perspiration, Scarlet Spider shirt that he wears and hopes like I'll.
And this is the real Scarlet Spider, not that chasm bullshit that they're gonna be doing.
I did. Well, that's what I had today. I woke up this morning. I'm like some kind of pheromone or musk. I just followed the scent like Toucan Sam following his nose all the way to Mike's house, and I'm like, he's like, "You want to do a podcast?" And I'm like, "That's weird." Like I just brought my computer and everything, and so here we are. This is Mike. And I'm Steve, your slithering serpent, half reptile, half scientist lizard who eats his children and maybe off-panel sexually assaults women. Who knows? Lizard.
We're getting our comic book.
Yeah, that's the YouTube censoring thing.
Someone probably dies by setting a
X-day on the actual assault essay. But anyways, guys, you guessed it. We're doing the Zeb Wells run on Amazing Spider-Man. What volume is this now, Mike?
6 or 7. Who cares?
6 or 7. It's a new one.
Yeah.
I want to say 6. I think you're right. Yeah, why not 6? But anyway, it's a new Amazing Spider-Man legacy number. Where are they written on?
So here, 895.
895. It seemed like just yesterday we were restarting Amazing Spider-Man with Nick Spencer.
Yeah.
And then he's yesterday's news. Now we got Zeb Wells. There's actually a hidden episode that we did. We reviewed the first issue of Zeb Wells' Amazing Spider-Man, which we recorded. I started editing, and then the summer happened, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to do it anymore. I forgot about it. But you know what? I still have it in the old data bank on the old OneDrive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish editing, and we're going to release a secret bonus episode. We'll either release it on this channel, or maybe we'll put it on our Patreon that we're starting. And
Spoiler alert! I didn't give it a good review.
Well, you know what? Let's see if things have changed. We've had 6 issues now.
Yep.
So let it sink in. I don't know what's going on with the color and this is the lighting or is this I don't know if you guys can see it watching right now, but it's kind of like going like I feel like I'm entering old-timey 30s Fletcher cartoon.
And eventually if this is on iHeartRadio or iTunes, you won't see what's happening because it'll just be a picture of us. Yeah, a picture of Spider-Man.
There's a little movie magic happening right now. Watch my computer just shit the bed and really old. Update your software. Update
to Windows 12 or whatever it is now.
But you know what? Before that happens, before doomsday happens for this old device, let's get right into it, guys, and talk about Zeb Wells' Spider-Man issue 1 through 6. Let's get let's get right into it. The first issue, Mike. We like I said, we're gonna talk about it again with some more. We ease into it. We'll put more elasticity.
So it's your factory reset Spider-Man is what they always do. They go back to Peter being down on his luck. Now all the heroes distrust him because of what happened in the opening panel of him yelling in Pennsylvania.
And that's something we can kind of maybe get into when we start talking about a little bit more. Let's not dissecting it.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a mystery box thing happening in the beginning where you've seen it all in the promo art beforehand. There's this big purple explosion.
What did Peter do?
What did Peter do? Going, ah! There's something a little suspicious maybe about it being in Pennsylvania, which I'll get into afterwards. We then cut to Peter and Aunt May. Had a little talk where Aunt May is just disappointed and puny Peter Parker.
Yep.
Like, you know what, Peter? I'm not mad at you. I'm just disappointed. You never fail to disappoint when it comes time to disappoint. So we see Peter down in the dumps, and so we leave that scene. Peter goes back to the department where he has some kind of bill loan shark. It looks like not a bill collector because when it comes to bill collector, you never see him with hospital bills anyway.
Yeah,
it's basically dealing with the aftermath of the Beyond era where Peter was in the hospital and Aunt May got stuck with all the hospital bills, which I don't know why she would, but she did.
Yeah, she wouldn't.
So This guy's waiting out there. Peter dodges him. We then cut to the hallway scene where Randy Robertson looking very very coked out, bulging eyes. Which I forgot to mention.
So they aren't roommates anymore.
They're not roommates anymore.
So he's living on his own apparently, because he was still with Randy during Beyond, I believe, right?
A lot of times, Peter. Well, they make mention of that because they actually make mention of Randy being his roommate during the Spencer run because he's just like I got stuck with Gord. The thing with Randy Robinson is like whenever they need a roommate, they killed off Harry Osborne.
Yeah.
So whenever they need a roommate, they just go to Randy Robinson. He was in the Paul Jenkins run, the Howard Mackey run, the John Byrne run, the Nick Spencer run, and then he goes away and no one explains why this guy would keep on going back to being roommates with this guy who's constantly just leaving with the bag. But I mentioned before that this book's written by Zeb Wells. It's also drawn by the returning John Romita Jr. With inks from Scott Hanna.
They're a good duo together. They usually team up no matter what they do together.
They're a good pairing. Romita obviously drew Spider-Man during the 90s and also during J. Michael Straczynski's run. His style's somewhat it's very, very similar to his
Not much has changed. It's great, but it's not changed. Well, it might have changed from all the stuff, but I don't think this is any different than his JMS run. I
think his characters have kind of thinned out a little bit. Also, he's not giving that once over with the cross hatching the lines. I think the colorist is picking up a lot of the maybe unneeded slack in this, which I'll kind of get into when I talk about the art and all that kind of stuff. Peter seems a little more slimmed down. Randy seems a little more slimmed down. And I think in Jenkins' run where Humberto Ramos was drawing him, Randy was very beefcakey. Kind of like Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon.
Which is now on Netflix.
Now on Netflix, guys. It's trending #1. So anyway, Randy's talking to Peter about him, like, sticking him with the rent, sticking him with the Gorg. And also that he's getting married to Tombstone's niece, who's now the new Beetle, who Peter wants him kind of to watch over him while he talks to Tombstone, because he's Tombstone. He doesn't want, who knows what's going to happen with that guy. So Peter's like, you know what, I hear you, but fuck off. and kind of goes off and getting ready to take off being He shaves his scruff off because he has a beard for some reason. And then before he leaves, Human Torch comes to the window and is like, hey, man, what you did to the Fantastic Four is unexcusable. And Peter says, listen, I hear you, but fuck off.
So basically he goes off by saying, Peter's like, I gotta go. I can't have you weren't there for me when you needed me. I needed me when you needed me. Whatever. When I needed you, you weren't there for me. And Human Torch like, well, you fucked up your own life. Whatever he did,
something happened. There's when the explosion shows the beginning, it's a 6-month gap in between the Beyond era and this era, and we yet to find out what it is. It's sort of like made famous by J.J. Abrams and Lost and all that stuff. There's a mystery box thing going on, so we'll find out eventually. Yeah, not right now. So Peter takes off to be Spider-Man. We in between all this, we're cut to a scene with Tombstone kind of filling the void for the Kingpin, who in the aftermath of Devil's Reign. He's meeting with all the crime bosses, like Crime Master, the Rose,
the Rabbit,
White Rabbit's. White Rabbit's kind of Tombstone's right hand man in this, where she kind of does a lot of the henchman work for her. If it's a Spectacular Spider-Man, she'd be like the Hammerhead of this. It's interrupted by John Romita Jr. creation and John Michael Straczynski creation. The Digger comes in.
It was nice to see him come back. I thought he was dead.
Digger comes back. Well, he's undead.
Yeah,
that's true. Dead crime bosses.
He is a zombie.
He's a zombie.
Basically.
He's basically Solomon Grundy. Mobster Solomon Grundy. So he comes back, and we kind of go over what's happening with that. Tombstone's making a play to be the new Kingpin, and so he's kind of wants to take over everybody else's territories. And then the last scene is I think 2 pages where you see Mary Jane. What's going on with Mary Jane? Apparently she's shacking up with some guy, Paul,
who was like her casting agent or something. It was something like that.
I think so. Not Paul Stacy.
No.
That'd be weird.
They don't exist anymore, apparently.
Do they? Paul Stacy?
Well, they do, but they're never heard from again.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll see them again, because I really like that Paul and Joel Stacy.
Yeah.
But anyway, so she's talking to Paul, and then all of a sudden, two kids who look exactly like a young Peter and a young Mary Jane come in and call her mommy. The end. What the fuck is going on?
You forgot to mention the part where Peter Parker is kind of stalking Mary Jane.
Peter's kind of stalking Mary Jane, so and she says to Peter, like, you shouldn't be calling me. So whether that means like Peter, she's pissed at Mary Jane. I mean, she's pissed at Peter, or they just can't talk for some reason. Because you can theorize all you want what's going on. The thing I mentioned before about it being funny that the beginning scene of the explosion was in Pennsylvania, and Mary Jane now has kids. The weird thing about what's in Pennsylvania, it was Mary Jane's cousin. Who had kids, who would look like Mary Jane, maybe, possibly. I don't know how, Marvel time, who knows how old they'll be. Normie Osborne fluctuates, Franklin Richards fluctuates.
Yeah, they're all change age.
So what could have happened, Peter could have caused an explosion inadvertently and killed Mary Jane's cousin. And now maybe that's why she has the kids with her now. As far as Paul goes,
you're usually pretty right on your theories. So.
I throw a lot of stuff at the wall, and sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't. As far as Paul goes, I don't know what his deal is. Could be Mysterio, could just be a guy. You know what I mean? Yeah. We'll find out. We'll talk about the next issue or next couple issues.
So we don't really find out what's going on with Mary Jane and Peter.
Not
anything really,
Just a shocking page of like, Mary Jane with kids and they're separated. But it's funny because the issue before this and Beyond Era, they were ready to move in together. And they're afraid of Mary. So. And
what may have caused that explosion or Peter to do what he did happened at the end of. Well, it didn't happen at the end of the Beyond Era. Something grabs Peter and then they vanish off like a flash of light, and then
maybe it's Paul.
The end of. Or Jill Stacy.
No, if it's Paul and Jill Stacy combined as one. Which is something we can talk about in a further issue, the most current issue. But anyway, we're on to issue 2 now. Legacy number 896.
Of which Mary Jane is not in, if you guys see the cover.
Yeah, we have a cover of Mary Jane and Peter, just like Romeo and Juliet. But the funny thing about that is Mary Jane's not in this issue whatsoever. But you know who is in this issue? Storm and Norman Osborne. As you guys may have known, during the Spencer era, during the Sin Eater saga, Norman Osborne had his sin sucked right out of him.
And he became a good guy.
He's a good guy now.
Apparently.
There's some announcements came from San Diego Comic-Con as far as developing Norman Osborne. We're not going to talk about that right now. Right now, Peter, he storms into Peter's apartment, and Peter's like, what the hell are you doing here?
He's basically insulting him to his face about his apartment.
Yep, and so he talks shit to Peter, and he goes, hey, you need some money? I got a job for you. And Peter's like, I'm not working for you. You killed my girlfriend. I'll never forgive you, which he should say, but he's for some reason hears him out.
Yeah. Well, because he mentions that he helped him out probably within that 6 months. So Norman Osborn helped Peter out. It seems like he helped him out at one point in the past 6 months. And that's why I think, well, he helped me out that one time, so now I owe you, I guess. So.
Yeah, but you also killed my girlfriend, too.
Yeah. And, I agree. He should have said that. But.
Yeah. So anyway, the job is you're going to babysit for me. You're going to babysit Normie and my what's his other son's name? His grandson. Normie and Harry's other son. Which,
we'll see if he's in this.
Which Norman remembers, but even though Harry doesn't remember. Son. So basically,
it doesn't matter.
Well, it was funny because in this issue, you think like, oh, there's gonna be a cool some hijinks with Peter, like dealing with kids. It all happens off panel.
Yeah, like he like babysits them. He says yes, and then nothing, and then he comes back.
The next issue,
when they had 2 ice cream sandwiches, they were great.
Yeah, nice. I put them to sleep. Yeah. Fuck off. So that happens, and then Norman's kind of like, well, I may have some more work for you later on, which we haven't dealt with yet in the series, but we've kind of seen some advertisements as what that could be.
And I'll get to my feelings on that. Again, I hated this book originally, but now it's growing on me. So
we did deal with a scene with White Rabbit doing some stuff for Tombstone. We introduced to a character, Kareem, who normally we would never mention, just random thugs or henchmen's names, but this guy kind of comes back a little bit later.
He plays a big role in it. Not a big role, but a good role in it.
One thing that's kind of weird, I don't know if it has to do, which I didn't notice the first time I read it, but now after reading issue 6, there's one scene in this comic where he's loading up a truck, And he's actually loading a bunch of costumes in there with like Electro and Mysterio.
Yeah, like Goblin Gliders in it.
Yeah, so we might find out what the deal with that is. There he is right there. We might find out the deal with that is later. Spider-Man bursts in.
I think I know what that's for.
What's that?
Yeah, probably is leading into possibly 600. I mean, no, 900.
Maybe. Spider-Man just busts in, starts talking shit to White Rabbit, webs them up, and says, like, listen, like, I know you guys are doing your bad guys. I may seem like I'm a bad guy, but I'm helping Tombstone out, but I'm not really helping him out. Oh, which, by the way, we forgot to mention before, in the first issue, Tombstone gets Peter Parker and tells him to tell Spider-Man that he needs his help with, like, the Rose and stuff like that, and Peter's like... And Peter right now, his demeanor is kind of like he's a little apathetic right now, a little like over everything, and he's like, sure, why not? I could use some action. Not necessarily Peter being bad, but kind of like I'll come here and I'll just fuck things up for you. And
he's angry because of what he's also angry what's going on with Mary Jane, so he doesn't care. He's like, I need something to do. And
yeah, I'll need something to do. I'll come here and like I'll bust up the Rose and I'll also bust up you as soon as like when I'm done with them. So anyway, White Rabbit right now thinks that Peter's working, or Spider-Man's working with Tombstone, which he's not. He's planning on double crossing him. Tombstone then comes in and kind of like beats the shit out of Crime Master and lets him know his territory is his.
Who's the Crime Master again? He's somebody new.
Crime Master is from way back in the day.
Oh yeah, but he's a new identity now, or he's Frederick Kingsley.
Frederick Kingsley from back in the I think it was Ditko days. I think.
No, Frederick Kingsley's a Hobgoblin, isn't he?
Roger Kingsley.
Yes, that's what
Foswell. Frederick Foswell. Crime Master. I think didn't he come back during Spencer's run where there was a huge Crime Master?
Yeah, I think he came back before. No, it's his son.
That's
like
right.
Yeah.
So then this part here, which I really enjoyed right now. So after that, Peter gets to jump on Tombstone, and so he thinks he gets to jump on Tombstone, which then they get into a little bit of a scuffle. Tombstone then lures him into the back of a box truck, and then locks the door. And which normally you think like, okay, whatever, they're gonna rough it up. Which Peter has no room to maneuver around. That's the thing with Spider-Man is the best like in an alley fight, or like not in closed areas, but like in a room because he can just basically ricochet off walls and that's his best environment for fighting. Yeah. And here he can't move at all. So Tombstone just beats the fucking shit out of him and then shuts the door, and that's the end of issue 2 for this.
And this was classic John Romita artwork. It was.
Oh, we're gonna see even more classic John Romita in the next issue, which we'll get right into. Issue number 3, which we open up with the loan shark. Still waiting outside Peter's thing. I guess Paul comes over with his nice douchey goatee. And it says
he does kind of look like a douche.
Yeah, he looks like the biggest. And he acts like a douche too, because he comes over and he's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Oh," he goes, "You have," and the loan shark's like, "Oh, you have problems with Parker too?" And he's like, "Oh, what's your deal with him?" And he's like, "Well, you owe me like a bunch of money." And Paul just goes like, "Well, how much to keep him off his back for a couple of days?" And he's like, $1,500. And so Paul just like, "Here's $1,500." And he says the reason why he hates to see a guy getting kicked while he's down. Which, I mean, on one hand, it's weird because...
So I feel like there's something going on here that, I don't know. There's something Zeb Wells has down the line that it's going to pay off.
We'll find out. Because Paul, it's half nice guy. It's like a humble brag, pretty much. You're doing something good, but also, you seem like kind of a douche. He has some chump change. So, obviously, this guy, Paul, has money. He could either be rich, like a rich, legit guy, or he could be Mysterio, who has a ton of money from robbing banks.
See, that's what I'm thinking. It might be Mysterio, because during that Mary Jane solo series, they seem to be kind of flirting with each other, kind of hitting it off.
I do know about that, yeah. So I know there's some kind of relationship with Mysterio and Mary Jane. I'm not really sure what it is, but I know that could be the deal. So I'm going to have to read that book, I guess. We then cut to Spider-Man, all shackled by Tombstone. And this is some real classic, like early '90s John Romita Jr. art. If you remember a book what was that Kane book, The Lost Years?
Yeah.
A lot of gruesome, bloody mask, cuts and bruises everywhere, dirt, rubble, awesome. Peters just gets he shackles, he can't move around again. Tombstone knocks him around a little bit, and so he's. We then cut to a scene with Randy and his girlfriend. I forget her name. Who's a Blue Beetle?
What is called Blue Beetle?
Not Blue Beetle. Beetle.
Alicia Tombstone or something.
Yeah,
something like that.
It gets kind of switched where Randy's going to ask her to marry him, and then she kind of flips the script and asks him to marry her, which I kind of like.
Yeah, very 21st century of her.
Yeah, plus Randy's been married before, so it's kind of let somebody else woo him a little bit. Tombstone then tells the story to Spider-Man. I think it's this issue. Yeah, kind of a little origin story of Tombstone. How people basically just treated him like shit all his life. And so he just basically shut down, wouldn't talk to anybody.
And this is the origin story of Tombstone. I don't think there's ever been a Tombstone origin.
No, there hasn't. Yeah,
he just kind of showed up one day in Spectacular Spider-Man. I think.
I mean, it's pretty. Oh, he's been in the comic. I mean, James DeMatteis did a good storyline with Selby Simmons with that, but it's never really. You knew about basically him and Robbie's relationship. You never knew anything before, like a kid. Which, speaking of which was evident during Superman Year One, John Romita Jr. cannot draw fucking children to save his life. They look like those precious moment characters. You remember when you were a kid, they had the big eyes, the big heads.
I think the problem with John Romita is that it takes him a while to perfect the character.
Well, this is just
so he doesn't draw a lot of kids. So
John Romita Jr., John Byrne, legends, probably some of the best comic book artists in history, cannot draw children at all to save their lives. So, little Tombstone, and eventually he gets tired of it. Files down his teeth and just attacks these kids after and then the only person he can count on is himself. Spider-Man, after he told the story, okay, listen, I learned my lesson. I'm not gonna fuck with you anymore. And Tombstone's too late.
Because he's planning some type of massacre where innocent people are gonna get killed. He wants to get Captain America or Daredevil to come out and stop it. So he's basically doing this plan to take down the Rose's men. To have the Roses be framed, Rose and his men to be framed in this massacre that's supposed to take place.
And Superman's really leveled up so far, as far as he's really using the opportunity of Kingpin being out of the picture to really kind of power up here. So anyway, he's take care of him, teach him a lesson to his goons. We have this guy who's getting ready to shoot him, and because he's shackled up because he can't get any leverage. Because they don't really say what the shackles are made out of. They're probably made out of steel or something like that. And Peter says they might be steel, maybe adamantium. We'll say adamantium.
Yeah, and that's there's a lot of that humor from Spider-Man that I love so much. That a lot of it, this feels like, and as I'm kind of going off screen here. It brings me back to the JMS Spider-Man humor. Back then, and there's just a lot of the things from the JMS Spider-Man that I liked a lot, and I'm finding a lot of that in this. And I like that a lot.
There's gonna be a lot due to the artist. There's gonna be a lot of comparison between those two runs. I'll say right now, I do miss hearing the inner monologue from Spider-Man. They're not exactly word bubbles that we used to have, but I'll take these. There's a lot of internal monologue which I really missed with Spider-Man, and that he has and we can talk more about overall thoughts on the runs like that. But the humor is pretty on point, I think. The next issue 4, which is
Mary Jane finally takes her appearance.
Yeah, Mary Jane finally comes back with which looks like she's looking to a mirror or holding a doll of herself, but it's really her daughter. Black Cat comes into the into the window, which doesn't seem to faze the kid at all. And she talks. She's like, "Have you seen Peter? I'm worried about her." And she's like, "We don't really talk anymore." And she's and so,
and I'm not gonna spoil 900 yet, but this plays a big Black Cat being in this kind of plays a role upcoming 900. So
Black Cat's been around for a while, a little bit in the Spencer run, I think, and then a lot in the Beyond Era, which was also written by Zeb Wells.
She has her own series now too.
Mary Jane's kid asks who that was, and Mary Jane says, that was a friend from a long time ago, which,
6 months isn't that long ago.
I know. Well, they got 6 months, in Marvel time is 5 years?
Yeah.
So anyway, we cut back to Peter getting ready to get his mask all bloodied, ready to get shot in the, get executed pretty much, and all of a sudden one of the henchmen says, whoa, hold on, we're not killing him. He said to teach him a lesson. And the guy who's ready to shoot him has this really kick-ass beard. Says this guy put my put my brother. What did he say? So this guy put me in jail. I did 5 years in Rikers, so I'm going to kill him anyway. I mean, like, killing him is teaching him a lesson, pretty much.
Yeah.
The guy who's trying to stop him getting shot is Kareem!
Yeah, Kareem comes back with a vengeance.
He comes back with a vengeance.
So the reason why Kareem... Well, there's also a setup. I think Tombstone sent him down there to stop him from killing him so that...
We'll find out later on.
Why. But the reason why Kareem says he wanted to save him is because Spider-Man pulled him out of a burning car an issue or two ago.
That's right, yeah. Spider-Man saved his wife or something like that, or his daughter?
No, he saved him.
Oh, saved him,
He pulled him out of that. It was the White Rabbit, the lady.
Okay, yes. Yeah. So basically Kareem's paying back Spider-Man, supposedly. So he basically like holds the other guys at gunpoint saying, you get out of here, I'll take care of them. We then cut to White Rabbit, who has got Robbie Robinson for Tombstone, because Tombstone said, we need this is some stuff we need to settle right now. Because, like I said before, there's that storyline by DeMatteis and Buscema. Great deal with Robbie's. Also, if you've seen the 90s cartoon.
And that was actually my first introduction to Tombstone, was the animated series.
So, I mean, they've got some skeletons. Like these things need to work out. We then cut to some guys waiting around for some orders from one of the crime bosses. Classic Ramita fat guy in the vest.
And look, can we just show them this last page? Yeah. That is probably some of the best John Romita art I've seen.
Yeah, I mean,
ever.
Romita, say what you want about his DC work. Say what you want about his later Marvel work with during Avengers wasn't so great.
Yeah, his Avengers so great. Awful. It's like they was mailing it in or something.
But Romita on street level characters, he's back with a vengeance. I'm telling you. This reminds me of his Kick-Ass work, his early '90s Spider-Man work. I mean, not his early '90s.
And his JMS stuff at the end of his Mackie run.
Yep. And then we're treated to a couple pages, a full story of Spider-Man just beating ass, beating the shit out of these guys. He's out for Tombstone.
Because he's trying to prevent that massacre, and there actually isn't going to be a massacre at all. It's just he's using him to take down the Rose's men. So he starts plowing through these guys, and I'm just going to show us really quick. One of my favorite panels right here, where he's out of webbing, and these guys see him, and he goes, "Bad news, guys, out of webbing." And so that means, he's been webbing these guys is like going soft on them. Now he has to use his knuckles. Now he's going to beat the shit out of them. Mind you, can barely see the blood on his mask. It's a full blood mask.
Now he's going to hurt you. In the meantime, Randy and his girlfriend, fiance. Now,
have you seen my fiance?
Yep, they've been alerted now that the Tombstone has Robbie Robinson. Is it Joe Robinson or Joe Robbie Robinson?
Joe Robbie Robinson.
Okay, his dad. Yeah, pretty much. And so they're like, he's gonna kill Robbie. And so him and his girlfriend get there as fast as they can to kind of stop it. Spider-Man, in the meantime, he's right about to approach Tombstone because he thinks that he's going to stop this gang war before it gets out of hand. Because in New York, you see what happens during gang wars. Which also the Rose has been involved with before during the Howard Mackie Spider-Man story, gang war. So he comes in, and all of a sudden, it's not Tombstone, it's the Rose. And he's like, well, I don't know who you are, but you ain't no Rose. So he punches the Rose in the face, takes his mask off. Wait a minute.
It's Richard Fisk.
It's Richard Fisk. It is the Rose.
Who they made him. I feel like they made him a joke of what he used to be.
He used to be pretty great, and then I think Bendis made him kind of like a joke in his. He wasn't responsible for that, but Bendis kind of continued on with that. Then there was the Blood Rose. Is that who it was? Someone came.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, so I mean,
and he's a clone of the original Richard Fisk because he was cloned in Conspiracy Theory. Speaking of conspiracy,
Richard Fisk, I believe, died. Bendis run a Daredevil too, and I don't know. See that? I mean. I don't know.
There's a lot of new clones out there still.
Yeah, comics. He's back in the comics, and they didn't bring back the good version.
No.
Spider-Man then, Randy and his girlfriend then barge into her father's office and like, listen, Dad, you can't be killing my dad. My new father-in-law. And all of a sudden it's like, no, they're just having a nice adult beverage, nice little cocktail, and just going over Randy and his daughter's wedding proposal, and they can't wait to celebrate the union between the Robertsons and the I forget what two.
And it seems like they're friends now. They put aside the differences for.
Which I think, I mean, they were friends originally, and then obviously had a falling out. But it's like different, for the kids. Stay together for the kids, And so we find out now that the Tombstone had set this whole thing up to take out the Rose and basically take over his territory, and he played Spider-Man pretty much. Pretty sneaky, Tombstone. Lonnie. We then, Amazing Spider-Man number 5. Legacy number 899. Oh, we're on... When was it 900? Good thing they rebooted it.
Yeah. When's the next reboot gonna come? The next new story arc that comes in?
Probably in a year. Probably after the next 100 issues.
Yeah.
Next issue, we have Midtown. We have Digger enjoying a nice frosty
One
ice
of his
cream.
personalities is enjoying an ice cream.
Yep. So there, who looks kind of like Killer Croc a little bit. Eating ice cream, then he sees all these, a lot of traffic going on. They're seeing the aftermath of Spider-Man, of the fall of Richard Fisk, the Rose. And so we see Digger throw his ice cream out and say, "Let's get out of here."
Forgot you saw the cone.
Yep. Spider-Man's pissed. He's watching all the ambulance, watching what he did, and he finishes a class and he says, "Tombstone, Mary Jane."
I'll chase you forever.
I'll chase the end of the earth. Tombstone says he's with the crime bosses again, gloating at what he did. Richard Fisk looks like he's there. Is that him right there? Or?
No, I think Richard Fisk is in an ambulance. That's I don't know who that other guy is, but that's
I don't know.
Yeah, some random gangster.
But
I think
Hammerhead's kind of saying listen, you better watch what you're doing here, buddy. He goes, and you also beat the shit out of Crime Master, and Tombstone's like, yeah, I'm sorry about that, but in all fairness,
they made Crime Master a joke now too.
Yeah, they go, in all fairness, it is Crime Master, and Crime Master's like, hey,
I'm standing right here.
Yeah, and then White Rabbit's grabbing his face, and he says, this doesn't feel appropriate. But again, the jokes are pretty good.
Yeah.
So they're kind of Tombstone's kind of lets the guys know. He's kind of like letting things simmer for a little while. He's like, listen, guys, Rose had to go. Crime Master, he's a joke. Fuck him. But just I'm not here. Listen, I'm here to play nice. Let's all get the families together. Let's all organize and let's all share and
And
fruits.
Hammerhead's also basically saying, what's going to happen if it seems like you are teaming up with Spider-Man.
Hammerhead knows what's up. He knows what's going on. So the gang war is not over right now. It's going to continue, and it's going to be Hammerhead and Tombstone, which should be fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So then we're treated. Okay, we're back. The old Bill Shark says he's at it again. I guess the $1,500 didn't last that long.
Yeah, it lasted him like a day. I think this is like a span of a few days.
Yeah.
Whole story.
Felicia Hardy comes looking for Peter, and so it kind of seems for a minute that the guy knows who Felicia is for a second.
Yeah.
But I don't think I don't know. It might just be that I'm reading it wrong.
I got that too, but then it seems like they don't. It's like you have that one world balloon that says, "Oh, hey."
Yeah. So the guy hits on Felicia a little bit, and all of a sudden, she's gone. She realizes Peter has been coming through the front door. Obviously, he's been probably going in the skylight. Awesome, by the way. Nice to see the return of the skylight, the old apartment from the Roger Stern era. We see Peter, whose face looks like a beat up Cabbage Patch doll.
It looks like he just fought Mullen, basically.
Yeah, it looks really goofy. Really, I mean, it gets progressively worse as the pages go on. Not worse as in the art's bad, but just it's a big bloated mess.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, I don't know if you guys remember Pillow People. It kind of looks like Pillow People. Felicia Hardy kind of lets them know, listen, I know why you're doing this to yourself. You're obviously pissed. Your heart's broken. Get your shit together, and maybe you can chase me around.
More innuendos, which we'll lead into the next issue.
I think that's what you meant. So anyway, Peter's like, you know what? I'm gonna get a coffee. And get a shave, a shower, and then kind of I'm gonna go out there and kind of process all this. So he goes down, finds out where Digger is. Digger's eating some looks like a salad. Well,
One of his personalities wants a salad.
Listen, if you're gonna cheat and have ice cream, you gotta make up for it. You gotta
Exactly.
you gotta pay the tax. Wash it down with a nice crisp iceberg lettuce salad. So anyway, Peter's Spider-Man comes in and he's like, hey man, you're the Digger. You don't have to be a joke. I'm not gonna get you in trouble. And they kind of concoct a plan pretty much with
because the Digger's afraid, or one of his personalities is afraid that because Spider-Man cost Digger his job with the Rose, and he's afraid that if the Rose finds out that he wasn't there to stop it, he's gonna try and kill him again or something.
He's a bunch of mob bosses.
Yeah.
He knows how this goes. He's been around, So we're then treated to I guess they're not in the city anymore. It looks like. I guess they're at a hotel. Tombstone, Robbie, Randy, and his girlfriend are all leaving. They're saying, "Hey, thanks for the drink. Thanks for letting us crash on your couch. We'll see you later." And so Tombstone's like, "Yep, see you later. We'll stop playing the wedding together." Comes in, Spider-Man sitting on his couch.
And this is where the humor really comes in too. Here, like it's just classic. Funny Spider-Man that I love so much.
It's funny Spider-Man, and I can say it right now. I'm going to show you the 2 pages right now. I mean, it's not splashy by any means. It's not like splash pages, but like the pacing. This is why John Romita Jr. is such a master, such a master of like storytelling. It's just like there's 2 guys having a conversation, one guy on the couch. It's wonderful. Spider-Man slouches. He slouches a little bit more. You see his head go down as he's talking. It's very emotive and just great. Tombstone gets a phone call. Digger is at one of Tombstone's safe houses or whatever, like little places, and just like wrecking the place.
Basically, Spider-Man tricked him into going there and ruining one of the Tombstone's operations.
Tombstone played him, and now Spider-Man's playing Tombstone back. And so Spider-Man's like, listen, I'm back, all right? I was in a bad place right now, but just so you know, if you're going to keep on doing this shit, I'm going to be there, okay? And Tombstone's like, I can... And Tombstone basically just does one of these, turns around and goes...
Peter's like, well, Spider-Man's like, well... How would it seem like if we were teaming up? I bet your Tombstone, your gangster buddies won't like that, basically. So,
yep,
that was a good little thing there too.
But then Aunt May having dinner alone. Then all of a sudden Peter comes up and he makes dinner this time, unlike the first time. She sees Peter all beat up, and she's like, "What happened?" He's like, "Oh,
racquetball.
I tried racquetball." And he goes, "Just one of those things." And Ami goes, "Just one of those things, huh?" And just looked at it, and you kind of get the feeling that maybe she knows that Peter is like Spider-Man right now. Which
I wish they would go back to that. I thought that was a really interesting take during the JMS.
Oh, the best, yeah.
It was just, and I'm gonna get into that in just a little bit. How I feel they're doing Peter dirty again, but
yeah, I mean, as far as the character goes, it would make Ami an idiot not to know she's Spider-Man, and also makes Peter irresponsible to not let her know. But then again, the next issue, it kind of seems like maybe she doesn't know.
Yeah.
So that's the end of this issue right now. There was also a subplot, which we didn't really touch on in the first issue, where Dr. Octopus being held by some unknown person. Guess what, guys? We're going to find out in this weighty issue, this porterhouse of a comic.
I only brought this X-Men one out because that talks about Moira Taggart, whatever her name is.
Oh, okay. I'm sure that has something to do with what's going on after it has to do with this. But that's what we'll talk about that after this one. Yeah, I mean, it's X-Men. I mean, the books are horrible.
I paid how much for the $7.99 just for that 4 pages?
Issue 900 right here, which is issue number 6.
9 and Legacy 900.
Like, thank God we rebooted so we can have issue 6.
Yeah.
On this, which would have been issue 100, I think.
So technically, I don't think we're really at 900 because. Dan Slott basically was like, add Superior Spider-Man, and that counts as amazing.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't.
Well, the thing is, when Spencer relaunched, was it 4 years ago or 5 years ago, this issue would have been issue 100 of that run. Instead, now it's issue 6, but it's 900 legacy numbering. But anyway.
It makes no sense.
This is a $10 book. I don't know if it's worth $10, but it's definitely, yeah, it's compared to most anniversary issues or milestone issues. This one is just straight up is a full Spider-Man story. It's not a couple of pages of Spider-Man story with a bunch of backups that have nothing to do with anything by a bunch of guys trying their best to get jobs at Marvel. This is
which is great. It's one team and it's a great team. It's a debut.
This has a good my Canadian accent.
A debut.
This is the cover is drawn by John Romita Jr. The interior art is by Ed McGuinness with
a bunch of different inkers.
Yeah, about 17 different inkers. Which the first inker is let's see if we can get where's the credits page.
I don't even think it says who's.
There we go.
There we go.
The first one is
good luck with that in the show.
Is Mark Morales, who's usually pretty good, but I don't think fits very well with McGuinness. The only one who's Cliff Rathenburn, who did Deadpool, Spider-Man together, was pretty good.
Yeah.
The best inker for Ed McGuinness is Cam Smith, but he's nowhere to be found on this. But anyway, so we have the first storyline where we kind of see this guy, this scientist in a landfill, who paid $15 million for a landfill, been looking for something, but not looking, found.
Yeah. The living brain.
So yeah, we find the living brain. And this guy's called The Project, which we'll find out later on, but I mean, like, you know, no spoilers. The guy is the guy who was holding Dr. Octopus hostage in the first issue, the unknown person, who looks curiously like Brainiac, a little bit, like an emerald Brainiac. So he finds a living brain. Next scene, we see a birthday party with a bunch of Peter supporting cast. Looks like Anna Marie, Flash Thompson, Aunt May. I think, was that not Carly Cooper, who's the girl who was running the podcast? Nora Winters.
I think Carly Cooper is in there somewhere.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I thought Carly Cooper was all deformed.
She's right there.
Okay, Carly Cooper. It looks like maybe Ben Urich. I don't know.
I don't know who that is.
This guy, maybe Michael Morbius.
Probably.
So anyway, Peter comes in looking very Harry Potter-like with no glasses. And then apparently it was Peter's birthday, but Jameson was supposed to be there first, and people are pissed that Peter showed up on time. And Peter's
but once he showed up on time, and people were pissed.
And this is just classic Charlie Brown, like, you know, like they're like, you blockhead. Like, you know, and Peter's just like, I'm sorry I showed up on time, I guess. There's an interaction where Flash Thompson comes in, starts busting his balls. This is the first time I think I've seen that Peter even knows Flash is alive.
Yeah, because he says, "Oh, it's good seeing you alive again."
A nice throwaway, nice little throwaway gag. But I would have liked a little.
I think he knew he was alive during. He knew he was alive. I don't know. It was one of those.
Flash has come back since the Null storyline in Venom, but also he's been doing something. I think in Savage Avengers.
I think so. Yeah.
But I don't think Peter's had. I don't recall. I mean, like I said, I've only really been reading this book as far as Marvel books go, so I don't know if Peter's had any interaction with Flash since then. Since he had that heartfelt apparently goodbye when he died. So we have Aunt May, Felicia's in here, which Emma McGuinness draws a great Felicia.
Oh, yeah, she does.
And so also,
and you show her getting jealous of a Bobby Brown, whatever her name is.
Mockingbird. Bobby Brown's in here. Peter's talking to her, and Felicia's like, "You seem awfully close with a Mockingbird over there." And Peter's like, "What are you talking about?" And so then all of a sudden, crash! Dr. Octopus's arms come in the Daily Bugle, and they're carrying Jameson. Which, I mean, this is a great page by. McGuinness, but I think you get the perspective a little bit wrong because the head looks a little disproportionate. I would think it looks disproportionate to the body, but then again, after seeing some more panels drawn by McGuinness, he draws Jameson kind of a large head.
There's another scene in here where Spider-Man's head looks a little disproportionate too.
Maybe a little bit. And McGuinness is one of my favorite artists.
Oh, this is a superior book.
But I think maybe like John Romita Jr. had a call talk and was like, "Listen, we draw kids with big heads, all right? We're keeping the Charlie Brown theme." We find out that the Octopus arms are taking over Jameson. Not taking him over, but basically traveled to the Daily Bugle to get Peter Parker. We have some great jokes. There's one scene, I gotta get to it really quick, where the arms crash in and we see Anna Maria go, "This is horrible. Do I look okay?" she's like, and there's another joke in here too where Nora mentions that Octavius is
I'm not proud of it, but he is my second option. My only option.
She still has it for Dr. Octopus from the Superior run. So anyway, so the arms take Jameson off the roof. He goes flying down, and Spider-Man saves him. Although the arms save Jameson, but then Spider-Man shows up because the arms knock a car over because they're just worried about getting Spider-Man. They don't care about anything else, and so Spider-Man does the old web thing with the truck, which is pretty great. Another great page by McGuinness. And then all of a sudden the wall, the arms are scribbling on the wall. Help. Which we know now that Dr. Octopus is controlling the arms, and like he needs Spider-Man to come out.
And that's going back to Spider-Man when he wore those claws back in the Dr. Octopus, which I think I have the action figure somewhere around there. There he is, right there. Yep. Octo Spidey.
We then where Jameson comes in. Jameson knows who Peter and Spider-Man is, which I love that characterization in the comics right now. And then we have a hilarious Jameson's trying to cover for Peter.
Not doing it very well, mind you.
And it's so great. So like I'm just gonna read it real quick so you guys can read it. It says, shows everybody, go home, the party's canceled. And he goes, but what about Peter? Is he okay? He goes, yes, he had an emergency with his health. Wait, so he's not okay? No, he was, it's on gas. He had painful gas. He told you this? I'm calling him. No, he won't pick up because his feelings are hurt. because his birthday wrong. And Aunt May says, no, it's definitely his birthday today. And he goes, how do you know? He goes, oh, Aunt May. That's it, everybody out of here. And you can just hear like J.K. Simmons' voice like doing this. And, so then we see Peter's following the arms. He has a little bit of exchange.
And the arms are falling in love with Peter Parker now too, which will play a role.
Yep. And so then we also we go to the scene where Dr. Octopus is being held by what's his name again?
He's like the living brain, though, the supreme living brain.
He gets the living brain. I think his name is the Project, I guess.
Yeah.
And so he's telling Dr. Octopus all about like his about why he needs Spider. Oh, how he's talking shit to Dr. Octopus. He's calling him a buffoon, and Dr. Octopus is like, don't talk to me about it. I'm a buffoon. I'll tell you why you're stupid. And then the Project tells him why he's stupid, and then Dr. Octopus is like, no, you're stupid. We then get
because he did the living. I don't know if you guys remember way back in Amazing Spider-Man number 8, I believe it was, Volume 1, Amazing Spider-Man number 8. If you guys remember the living brain, they were trying to figure out who Spider-Man was. Yeah, and that plays a role in this and why he's the living supreme brain, or the Project is capturing all of. He
kind of goes, he'll go through his origin story, and he kind of makes mention of that what Mike said, that like basically like the last thing he was working on was trying to find out who Peter was, and before he went away or whatever.
Yeah.
So, he then the Project goes us going to Felicia Hardy and Flash Thompson and says like, hey, who's Spider-Man? And Flash is like, and Felicia's like, well, I'm not telling you, and Aunt May's like, well, I'm not telling you. He goes to all his cast members asking who he is, and they're all like, first of all, we don't know who he is, and we wouldn't tell you anyway. Flash obviously has a symbiote in him. The Project senses it in him, and it's like, I don't need you to tell me. I can just make you tell me.
And I don't think Flash remembers that he's Spider-Man anymore either, I don't think.
Again, I'm kind of confused with the whole relationship with Flash and Peter is right now anyway. Peter breaks to the warehouse, and he's met by the Super Adaptoid.
With all the Sinister Six's powers.
Yep, so the Sinister Six has taken all the Super Adaptoid takes all the personalities.
Yes, personalities and powers, yes.
So he's saying quotes from them, and there's a nice beat 'em up action scene, which McGinnis does so well. Mm-hmm. The Adaptoid looks great. And so it's Peter in the arms versus the Super Adaptoid. And Peter kind of gets his ass kicked a little bit. We cut to more of the.
That's right. He has robot legs. I didn't see that in the first stuff. Yeah, I'm so out of what's going on with Flash right now. Anyway,
we get more of the Project trying to find out who Spider-Man was. Then we get his whole backstory, which we have the scientist who finds the living brain. He's intrigued by it.
So that's the scientist that originally created the living brain.
Oh, okay, all right, okay, I got you. Okay,
and that
I just read this today, so I'm a little
And then the living brain got bigger and bigger for all the knowledge that Dr. Stephen Petty.
It turns into Mother Brain from Metroid.
Basically.
It's great.
Like the Super Kree brain, basically.
Yep.
And then he takes over his brain, putting knowledge in it, and it kills him. And then he takes an avatar form of Dr. Stephen Petty, whatever his name is.
He has 3 names.
Yeah, basically.
Although this bit right here, we have McGinnis. I don't know. We'll call back to his Superman run. That looks a little Brainiac-esque to me right there. We see what you did there, Eddie.
It was a little confusing what they did with the living brain, but they gave it a little more backstory.
So more exposition. He's trying to get Flash to tell him who Spider-Man is. And then all of a sudden, Spider-Man shows up. Once he knows the deal is with this guy, the Project, he comes down there. Still fighting with the Super Adaptoid, but it turns out the living brain, who is basically the Project pretty much, the same person, he's scared shitless of Spider-Man. So like when he sees on the Super Adaptoid, he's coming after me, step on him. So and Spider-Man's like, what the fuck? And so he's fighting the Super Adaptoid. More great looking Felicia Hardy. Mm-hmm. Flash Thompson does look very Eddie Brockish, though.
Yeah, he does.
And so more fighting, more jokes, and then all of a sudden, Spider-Man stumbles onto Dr. Octopus, and Dr. Octopus is like, "Listen, you can't beat him." You're gonna,
he also stumbles upon the rest of the Sinister Six, which are also being held captive.
Yep. So he finds them all, and all of them are like, like this. We're gonna fucking kill you. Like, you're right here. Like, and so Spider-Man's like, listen, we need to put our differences aside and team up and stop this. And they're like, okay, I guess we can put our differences aside for just one moment, just to fight this.
I can't remember the last. Well, we'll lead into that. They eventually take down the Super Adaptoid, and Doc Ock's like, no, I'm the one in charge. Get out of the way, fools. And
yeah. Well, there's one scene here with Sandman where he talks about. He goes, I don't even know if I'm a bad guy. I was at the beach a couple months ago. So basically, although we've had plenty of Sandman appearances since then. Apparently, Sandman's. I don't know what's happened to him. The last thing happened to him. Apparently, his memory. That happened to Peter Parker. That happened in Paul Jenkins' run. Yeah. Peter Parker, which was I think it was actually a Web Spinners story.
No, it was in the Peter Parker.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
It was Mark Buckingham and Paul Jenkins way back in the.
That was like Volume 2 or something.
It was
almost 20 years.
Volume 1 of Peter Parker, I believe.
Yeah. No, it was Volume 2 of the Peter Parker Spider-Man when they relaunched it.
Well, it says issue 308, 309.
Well, I think what they did is, so at the end of the Volume 1 of Spectacular Spider-Man, Peter dies after fighting the Gathering of the Five storyline.
Okay.
And Norman Osborn thinks he gets godlike powers, but he actually got insanity. But that's another day for another day.
So apparently...
They ended it there because they thought Peter Parker died in his mind. Then they relaunched it a few years later, and that's the run. That's Volume 2.
So apparently Sandman doesn't remember anything that's happened post one Brand New Day.
Yeah. So he says 2 months. That's been like 20 years.
Yeah, so I mean, Marvel time.
Yeah.
We then have this great shot, Sinister Six versus, Sinister Seven versus the Super Adaptoid. So they go to town, the Super Adaptoid. I love how Dr. Octopus is just like the fat, like blobby, like Dr. Octopus. Super Adaptoid is talking shit to the Sinister Six, saying like, you know what happens to sand on the beach? And he turns Sandman's fist into a big like crystal mallet, which Sandman's like, pretty cool.
He doesn't do anything with that basically. Because Doc Ock gets in the way.
Dr. Octopus, he's just trying to call the shots, act like the boss, which is always the downfall of the Sinister Six is Dr. Ock's ego.
But here it wasn't so. I think the Super Adaptoid was still feeding off their emotions and their personalities, and then that caused Doc Ock to be like, "Oh, I'm in charge," blah blah blah. So basically, Doc Ock used his brain to take down the Super Adaptoid.
Possibly. Yeah. So then, obviously, they beat the Super Adaptoid. They discover the living brain. And they're like, and a funny scene where they go, "Oh my God, it's beautiful! Look at it! What a marvel of science!" And and life. And they go, "Obviously, we're gonna kill it, right?" Yeah. And they're like, "Oh, of course we are." And so Spider-Man's like, "It's a living creature. You can't kill it, blah blah blah." And so Electro's like, "We're gonna kill him too, obviously, right?" And they're like, "Oh, of course." And so Spider-Man is fighting for his life to save the living brain.
And when was the last time we saw a fight with Spider-Man and the Sinister Six? I can't honestly remember.
Probably during World's End, which was like they were kind of.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But that's when it was good. This is a nice classic Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
So then, Spider-Man's Dr. Octopus is about to kill him because he's the final blow because he's Spider-Man's greatest enemy, according to him anyway. And then the arm's ready to do a killing strike, and all of a sudden just pats him on the head. And because the arms are they've grown to like Spider-Man now, and so
awesome. I want that.
Great, more great Spider-Man pose by McGinnis.
I want that as like my poster or something.
As much as I love John Romita Jr. back in the book, I love it. And McGinnis again is one of my favorite artists.
I would take him over John Romita, but
we can talk about that too. So anyway, the project comes and he's like, hey, I wanted to know who Spider-Man was, and now I've seen who he is. He's a guy who would risk his life for someone who's trying to kill him, just because life is precious to him and he's a hero, pretty much. So the Super Adept, I'm sorry, that's the project basically teleports them back to where they came from. Spider-Man's listen, I have to unplug you because
you know my identity because he does say, "Oh, thank you."
He doesn't know at first that he knows his identity, but he's like, what you've done, you'll live on within the living brain, something like that. You have to go back to being like a brain, and the brain has to be kept somewhere. And so he goes, well,
Which during the Dan Slott run, the Living Brain knew who Peter was for the Doc Ock.
Yeah, but so I mean, I don't know. But anyway, so he goes, oh, thank you, Peter. And he goes, wait, how did you know? And he goes,
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. And Peter's like, oh man, and so he unplugs him with that, which is like a great moment. Which I when I was reading that, I was like, oof, that's a good Spider-Man moment. We're then treated to the end where like Spider-Man's saved the day. The living brain's getting taken care of, and Felicia comes out and says like, I was like, coming to help you out. I'm watching, but like, blah 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 reasons. And so Spider-Man's like, talking about his birthday, what a shitty birthday he's had, and then there's this nice splash page of Spider-Man and Felicia kissing, and
so definitely seems like the Black Cat's trying to rekindle the romance that she's still always in love with Peter, and never really left.
But also she's still kind of like like a tease a little bit where he goes, you hear that? And she goes, relax, Peter, we're done here.
And also the Tentacles is in love with Doc Ock's Tentacles,
which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
We get a tease to issue 7, which has we'll talk about maybe a little bit with Norman and Peter. Great issue. The thing I enjoyed about it most, besides like the art, is it like other milestone issues. It's not like we said before, like a big the game has changed now, status quo changer for a couple of pages, but then the rest is all fill in. This was just like a
it was nice, a fun book, and the story was great.
It didn't change much. Yeah. It changed that maybe some relationships, some points with Felicia, but I mean it was just like a really solid, awesome Spider-Man story, which I can appreciate the hell out of. So that's not Chip Zdarsky.
His first story arc, Zeb Wells' first story arc.
That's the beginning of the run, yeah. So
well, his first new story arc, because he was during that Beyond era, which I don't want to get into. But so my opinion from the beginning has changed. I'm actually getting more excited about the book. I'm excited to see that. I know there's going to be a payoff where it's going to be Peter was, the heroes are going to be right about Peter, like they were wrong about him, I should say.
Yeah.
We're going to find out what happened with Mary Jane later on, a few issues down, which this kind of explains it.
No, there was the value. You're not reselling that.
Oh, watch this, guys.
Oh no!
That's how I care about my comic
Your
books.
eBay rating.
Yeah. I only bag number 1. Maybe I'll bag 900, but that's it. But the one thing I don't like about this factory set Peter Parker crap is that for some reason they won't let Peter Parker be married for one thing, and they won't let him be successful as Peter Parker.
Yep.
They did for Dan Slott. That's the one thing I think Dan Slott did a wonderful job with, was making Peter Parker successful. When he was working at Horizon Labs, and he can come and go whenever he wants, as long as he produces. And of which Max Modell was in this issue as well.
Yeah.
I get that they just don't want Spider-Man or Peter Parker to be successful.
See, the way I see it is, superheroes. Besides Rhea and Sue, the Fantastic Four, they'll never let them really get married or be happy. They'll never have a happy ending. Spider-Man will never have a happy ending because to them, Peter Parker is Marvel's Charlie Brown, where he always has to have that rain cloud over him and things just not work out.
But he's been successful before, like in JMS's run. He was a teacher for a while. I know you don't like that part.
Oh, no, I do that.
Not that part, but the New Avengers part. I love that he was in the New Avengers. And all these heroes know him and trust him, knowing that Peter wouldn't do something unless he knew he was doing it was right. You know what I mean? So it's the up and down. It's all depending on who writes them and who's the editor and who's in charge of Marvel at the time. So I wish, I don't know, my last favorite era of Spider-Man was the New Avengers era, because the heroes respected him. He was successful, and I hate seeing my favorite superhero not be successful.
To me, that's why I like Spider-Man. As much as me and Mike love Spider-Man, I think we do kind of disagree a little bit on status quo. But for me, I don't like when the heroes all respect. I don't think Spider-Man should get any respect, and then what makes him like.
Well, I should say, sorry, the people who know who he is personally.
Yeah.
Like the Fantastic Four and his new Avengers teammates.
Yeah, I mean, they should know him, but at the same time, I think people. I like when people are like, "Oh, this fucking guy." Like, like, we all like. He's good in a pinch. He gets things done. But man, does he fucking yap and talk shit? And like, man, like like he's gonna wreck the place and like and then take off. But they also, I mean, like they should respect his abilities, but not him. They should still think he's an asshole and not like him. I mean, obviously he has friends like the Fantastic Four and like Captain America.
And like you can tell that Bobby Brown, whatever her name, I forget what her name is.
Bobby
Mockingbird.
Yeah,
that she so respects him and knows him too.
Yeah,
and there was also that jealousy with Black Cat and her too that they touched upon in this. But
to me, as far as the new Avengers thing goes, Peter Parker being on any team makes no sense to the character at all.
Well, I didn't like him when John Romita, not just because John Romita was in, but when John Romita was on the premiere Avengers team, I like him on the new Avengers because I felt the new Avengers were more street level.
They were, but the thing with it's completely counterintuitive to his character whatsoever. Because Peter Parker would have to be the leader, and even that would be because the character is based on accountability and crippling guilt. So for him being on a team would be too much for him because if anything happened to anybody, it would be his fault in his eyes. So for him to be like, even if it's something like on New Avengers, if Luke Cage got like captured, that would be his fault to him. If like Jessica Jones got like shot, that would be his fault to him. So Peter being on a team doesn't work at all.
Well, if he's not the leader, I like seeing him more involved, and I don't know. I guess I can't relate to this type of Spider-Man anymore. I still love the character and whatnot, but
I used to feel that way. But as far as comic characters, any comic character, Batman, Spider-Man, Wolverine, whoever, they're never going to evolve.
Yeah.
They may have status quo change, but they'll always go back. To me, this doesn't seem like too much of a reset. I mean, I know what Mike's talking about. They're kind of doing like that 80s Spider-Man, a little bit like the asshole Spider-Man. But Peter's been this way before. And as far as like his financial situation, I mean, inflation, times are tough. Is Peter really a loser though? I mean, he's struggling for money, but who isn't struggling for money really?
That is true. Yeah,
so I mean, like for all I know, he could just be a regular guy making regular money. But like I mean, everything's so expensive that he just seems like a bum. Like when you're looking at it from an outside perspective. But I mean, again, like there's things we don't see right now. As far as Zeb Wells, obviously he has the mystery box thing going with the explosion, and we'll find
which I feel like is going to be a good payoff.
Yeah,
and which why I'm still, and I'm a glutton for punishment. People are like, Mike, if you don't like it, why do you keep buying it? Well, the thing called Parker luck. There's a thing called McCarthy luck. That if I start collecting this, because I want a full run before I die, that these are probably the most expensive issues ever that I can't get. I said it.
Even if I'm not interested in the book, I still like the character Spider-Man. Yeah. So I'm gonna like if someone new comes on, I'm gonna check it out. I still like the character. It's like having kids. Like sometimes they're fucking assholes, but I still love them. Especially it's like teenagers. But as far as this run goes, like I said, we had that episode where we reviewed the first issue of Zeb Wells' run. And between like what was like leaked about the issue, what was supposed to happen about during the run, I went in and wanted to fucking hate this so much. I'm like, to the point where I was like, I think I've become completely disinfatuated with comics in general because this run looks so horrible. I'm on my favorite character so much. But then I kept on reading it, and I can tell you right now, I am down. I love this run right now. There's nothing crazy happening. There's obviously like the Mary Jane stuff, which is kind of like oh, what's this? But that's all it is.
And that's the X-Men thing too. That's really confusing.
We'll talk about that in a second. But I mean, like it's just like really solid, good Spider-Man, which is all I want.
Again, I'm not too fond of how certain people, especially the people who care about and know Peter and Spider-Man, what they're doing with that run, but when he was just Spider-Man taking on Tombstone, that was just classic, funny Spider-Man. Yeah. So like, again, it's growing on me. It's not my favorite version of what they're doing with Peter and Spider-Man, but I'm game now, honestly. Like
it's peaks and valleys of Spider-Man. Like I said, if you don't like the status quo of Spider-Man, wait a creative team and it'll change. And even this one, I don't think Peter's going to stay. Even in the last issue of the Tombstone arc, the crime, whatever it is. He kind of like, I'm back. Yeah. And he's like, and even you see the difference within this next storyline with the Super Adaptoid, issue 900. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, like, I'm loving it. I just like McDonald's. I'm loving Amazing Spider-Man. we'll talk about the we'll see Mike lose his fucking mind. There's going to be comparisons with the artists, with the artists involved, as far as Zeb Wells and Straczynski's run. As much as I have a nostalgic, attachment to Straczynski's run. I got to tell you, as far as first storylines go, I like this better than Straczynski and Romita Jr.'s run.
That's a stretch, but
at the time I liked Straczynski's run because honestly, what we were dealing with before, Mackie and Byrne were just driving the book into the ground at that point.
Yeah, Mackie was on his way out. He was burnt out.
And so anything different. I mean, the coloring was great, and Romita's art looked great. But as far as this goes, this is more what I want from Spider-Man. There's no big spider totem
the Spider-Man totem stuff was a little iffy, but I don't know. It's hard to really.
And honestly, Straczynski's opening, was it Homecoming or Coming Home, whatever it was called?
Yeah.
That's introduced Moreland, which introduced Spider-Verse, which introduced not the movie, the comic. All shit I fucking hate that's come from that.
Oh, guess what? Spider-Verse is coming back.
Oh yeah, Dan Slott's coming back too.
He's not going to change much, so I'm not too worried about it.
No, well, it's really funny because and that's the thing. You have. For those of you guys who don't know, Dan Slott and Mark Bagley are doing Ejectiveless Spider-Man coming out. Mm-hmm. Two guys who have done way too much fucking Spider-Man. No. I'm only saying that about Mark Bagley because I'll take any Mark Bagley artwork. The most fucking vanilla choice you can choose for a Spider-Man book, which just goes to show the Marvels fucking whatever. Just they're gonna sell, right? We keep printing Spider-Man books.
But you did say it best though. Can Mark Bagley not draw anything else but Spider-Man?
Oh, yeah.
They won't let him know. You said, will they not let him draw anything else Spider-Man related?
I mean, it's pretty cool. You know what? Mark Bagley and Romita Jr. are both on Spider-Man at the same time. I would have loved, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But and as much as I love Romita Jr., as much as I'm enjoying him on this, they're neither one of them are the artists they used to be.
No.
Oh, which was something I wanted to kind of comment on. As far we talked about the writing. The writing's good. I'm enjoying the storyline. Like to see where it goes. The humor's on point. The guy has grown leaps and bounds since Shed, and even his Avenging Spider-Man, I think it was called.
Yeah.
But Romita Jr.'s art is great. I think it's as great as it's ever been. Better than his Superman stuff, that's for sure. But the one thing he carries over from his DC work is the colorist kind of added a little bit more to his art, but not in a good way as far as I'm concerned. I love scratchy. You can see the lines, the sketch lines and the erase marks on Romita. That's not there right now at all. You can even see the parts. There's parts on Aunt May's face where you can see the colorist kind of went over the inks or went over the pencil lines, and it's just it kind of removes a lot of depth from I think Romita's art, which is a little more dynamic and a little more polished. I think adds an unnecessary polish, pretty much a buff, pretty much I guess. But other than that, I like I said, loving this run.
Yeah.
Zeb Wells. You're proving me wrong.
Loving is still a strong word for me, but he's proven me wrong. I was, like I said, I told Steve when we did you're gonna see if we released that first issue we did, Amazing Spider-Man #1, Volume 6. I was like, I'm getting these, and I'm going just in my pile because I want the complete run. And now it's all right, I'm actually kind of looking forward to Spider-Man again.
There's nothing I enjoy more than being proven wrong, especially when it comes to comics, because like I said, when we release that episode, you'll see I was just done with comics. I'm I don't care what these. Obviously I like Spider-Man, but not the comics, not the character. But this has kind of rejuvenated my my love for Spider-Man in the comics anyway. The movies and all that kind of stuff is another animal altogether. But so yeah, if I'm gonna give Zeb Wells' run so far a grade, I'm gonna say a nice solid A. Solid A. A minus, because I've seen some real. There's no Paul Jenkins, it's no Roger Stern or Tom DeFalco, but it's a good. He's in good company, I think.
I'll probably give it a B. I'm not there at the A. B minus, because it's closer to C. Because it's getting there for me. Because like I said, I'm not too fond of the whole what they're doing with Spider-Man and the LA heroes hating him, especially the Fantastic Four, and.
Ride the wave, Mike.
Yeah, that's all I'm doing.
B's passing. B keeps you out of summer school. That's for sure.
I wish I got B's. That would have kept me out of summer school.
So, you got anything else to add, Mike? Or do you want to talk about the X-Men real quick? We're running kind of long, but
we'll talk about that next time because it's going to play into I think Amazing Spider-Man #9 or 6 or something. I don't know. No, it's 6, but I think it's a 9 that plays into. So,
all right, guys. So I think that's going to do it for this episode. Cake Burger, 2 Over Comics. Good to be here, guys.
Yeah,
good to
we're
be
back.
talking to you guys about comics, And yeah, hopefully more content to come. I don't even have to tell you there's more Friday Night Game Night content coming.
Yeah, so watch me and Woody on Friday Night Game Night. We actually figured out the audio issues over here in the game room, so hopefully you'll be able to be involved with the game room stuff here at Friday Night Game Night. So.
As long as that pool's open, I'll be here.
Well, I got your thong in the draw, so that's a plus. Oh, hey, I got some on eBay.
Oh, there you go. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us. We'll see you next time. Like and subscribe, please. That really helps a lot. And pretty soon we're going to, 2 old men are going to put their old men brains together and figure out how to do Patreon.
Yep.
And then we can figure out a way to make
Leave in the comments below if you can figure that stuff out and how we can get on iTunes or iHeartRadio and all that jazz.
Be nice about it, though. Don't I'm trying, a lot going on.
Don't be like his son and be mean to us about it.
Yeah, a lot of irons in the fire with this deteriorating. Speaking of living brain, this is like the deteriorating brain.
Yeah, we need a living brain to help us out with this stuff.
All right, guys, we'll see you next time.
All right, see you later.
Bye-bye.